Well, it didn't take long for another 100 cost unit to come to War of the Visions, and this one is pretty good. It's Helena, the Black-Robed Witch, and she's going to bring with her a whole new dark meta. We've got Venera and Shadowlynx getting some surprise EXs, but we're also expecting Dwayne in the future, so let's take a look at exactly how she's going to crush your dreams. As always, thank you to warofthevisionscalc.com. Go support their Patreon and join me on their Discord. So we're going to take a look at Helena's stats. She is a UR100 cost Dark Element. She has a new job, Black-Robed Witch, and she also has Spellblade and Arithmetician for her sub-jobs, and she's going to use Rods, which we will get a new one of soon. So let's take a look at her 120 stats, and the big things I'll point out here is she has a huge amount of starting AP, she's got great magic, and she has good agility, and we'll take a closer look at everything and some comparisons in just a bit. Her mastery ability is pretty standard with the increased the dark HP and the dark attack, but then she's also going to get innate magic resist penetration and 10% magic boost there, and she'll get another further 20% magic boost from her board stat, and that's pretty significant. So this is where we take a look at the stat difference between going from 99 to 115 to 120. The difference column there specifically talks about the difference from 115 to 120. So when we take a look at the HP, there isn't a huge difference. And then the same thing, the AP actually is a significant difference because any AP increase is a big deal. 17 is a large amount. So that is from a board node that you get when you go to 120, and that is something that you definitely can take into account if you want to go all the way with this lady. Then for the magic stat, you don't gain a ton from 115 to 120. I think that 38 magic is not a huge deal. I put base magic in highlight there because I had some trouble calculating it and I couldn't get the numbers to line up, and I know that there's some assumed math that the calculators do, so I'm just fairly confident this is all very close to what her base levels are, and it's important to talk about that because she actually gets a 60% magic buff from her passive, and I forgot to label that on here. It has the old 30% on there, but that's actually the numbers you see, 192 or 187 there. That is a 60% magic buff that she can equip as a passive. It's like self-sacrifice for magic. We'll take another look at it soon, but it's huge. Like you show, she already has 519 magic, and you're going to add 192 to that when you equip that passive. She's got really great agility, and it doesn't matter if you're at 115, she still has the same, and there is not a significant difference between the dexterity and the luck. So really, stat-wise, it's not that big a deal for her to not be 120. In my opinion, it's the same as Mont. The only thing that we're really gaining here is some AP. As a dark unit, Helena is going to have that 10% light weakness, and then her status ailments are pretty wicked. She gets a 50% charm resist, a 50% stop resist, and then Berserk resist 10%, and that's actually pretty significant considering that Berserk is now very prevalent in the meta. However, this reduces the 10% off of the base chance that the skill has. So in the case of Mont's LB, it reduces it to a 57% chance. So it's actually not going to be, and then that's used to calculate with faith, so it's faith added to each other, the target and the user, and then you take 57% of that. So it's still going to be a high chance to Berserk on a lot of units, but it is that added protection that will really help her out, and especially with low faith Mons. And then for attack type resistance, she's got the two best ones, which are slash and magic. So 15 and 20, weak to pierce, and we're going to get a light Dragoon soon that will be magic resist, so there's definitely a counter coming, but then also weak to strike, which I love to see since I have lots of striking units, and then otherwise just a little bit of a buff to the missile resist. Helena's TMR is really good. So this is the Black Rose headdress. It's a really cool, like, I guess, pin that she puts in her hair there, and you can see there's a hidden blade, which is very thematic in terms of like how, you know, dangerous she looks and how powerful she looks. So this gets some HP, it gets agility, of course, and then a magic boost as well. No defensive stats, except the TMR ability is going to give you a 35 damage mitigation 3 times for self. That's exactly the type of buff that you want, is a 3-time 35% all damage buff, not even magic damage or physical, it's everything. And then it also has a 25% agility buff on top of that. So she already has high agility. Her VC will probably get upgraded from before to give her more agility. It's honestly insane. She's going to be very, very fast. And this also has a high TP cost, which is something that she does need. Moving on to Helena's passives. She doesn't have many, but they're all very important. So first off is the Witch's Mastery, which will get upgraded to the Witch's Dark Mastery if you go to EX levels. And this gives a 60% magic boost and will reduce your spirit by 8. She has 6 innate spirit, so really it's actually putting you down to -2 spirit going into a battle. But you get Providence of Light, which is going to give you 12% magic resist and 12% light resist. So if you have this equipped, your light resist will be positive 2% and your magic resist is going to be 32%. So definitely going to be very good against light magic users, even though they will have that 25% damage increase innate. Then if you want to use the Arithmetician sub-job, you have a couple choices here. So the level 4 to level 3 is pretty much needed in PvP because 120 and 99 are both multiples of 3. The height 3 to 2 is something that you might consider just for her height 2 Cura, but at the same time, I don't think that that's her main job to heal, so we're probably not going to use that one. It's really going to depend on whether you want to be a little bit tankier with the Providence of Light, or if you're using the Arithmetician sub, then you probably just want to use the level 4 to level 3. And then for, I always forget that I put the highlights in here. So then for the counters, we have counter energy, which is going to be able to restore 15% AP. This is pretty good because it counters all damage. So if you look at the Rune Knight one, it only counters magic damage. This is definitely a lot better and something that she might need, and we'll kind of discuss that in a sec. Then Magic Guard will just reduce your magic damage, definitely good for a magic-based meta if there is one. And then Damage Distribution is also a great one because it's going to heal, it's going to counter, it's non-elemental. So this is a really cool counter set, and there's definitely room to play around with all 3 of these counters depending on what you're seeing and then what the testing goes like when you're trying her out in your formation. So now taking a look at her main job skills for Black Robed Witch, you'll notice that everything has a casting time and some of them have some pretty slow casting times. Luckily, she accounts for that. So one thing I forgot to mention with the upgrade for her passive for her job is that it gives her a 200 casting time reduction, which means she only needs to get to 800 for her casting time for her spells. Obviously, you're going to use that passive, so we can just assume that all of her spells will get to 800 for casting time. So Dark is a small damage skill. It's going to be her fastest casting time, and she'll definitely use this a lot. Drain is something that she might not use that often, but it is kind of interesting for PvE. But then if we take a look at Devastation, this is really interesting now. This has a 200 casting time that's the same as Flare, and this is going to break magic barriers, and it's going to do a whopping 220% potency damage, and it's non-elemental. This is actually important because one of the ways that people might scheme to combat a Black Witch Helena is to build up their Dark Resist. So this is going to not factor into any of their Dark Resist. That's pretty significant, plus it's breaking barriers, so magic tanks beware. Then we have Darken Focus, and this is a really important TP skill, and it's actually her only TP skill on her kit. So this is going to give her 30 accuracy and then decrease activation time by 350 for 3 turns for self. So this will put a total of 550 decrease on her activation time, meaning she only needs to get to 450 in order to cast a spell. This will make her 200 speed spells cast at a much faster rate, and that's going to be very important so that people don't kill her while she's trying to cast. So this is something that I think there could be a counter here, and the counter for her would be to dispel this and then watch her take longer to cast, get more swings in, whatever it is. But I don't know until we try that out. Maybe jamming thrust will be something we can try to get involved, like and break up her casting. But again, with Dark and Focus, that's going to be much harder to do. Then we have Witch's Hex, which will get upgraded to Black Rose Hex. This is a spirit break of 30 and then a pretty significant amount of damage there. And if you upgrade it, you're also going to get decrease AP 20 times. Now this is, and that's 20 AP. This skill also gets upgraded with the height difference on the actual AoE. So when you target a space, it can hit 1 height up above, and then I think when it gets upgraded, it goes to 2, which is actually pretty significant for hitting more people. But it also means that on maps with lots of different heights, if your units are up close, then they're probably going to be in the range too. It might limit her from using this. This is also a 200 cast time skill. And then finally, her final skill, the 120 skill, this is Black Rose Judgment, also a 200 cast time skill. And this is, again, a non-elemental damage. And this is going to be a 100% hit, has good range. And this is definitely something that I think people will want to use against Evade. However, with the cast time, that's Evade's best chance of getting at somebody, because these Evade units have high agility. And if she does not cast this quick enough, then she could die by the time these Evade units get to her. Now, I don't see that being a problem, because she's going to be paired with all sorts of tanks, including but not limited to King Mont, so we don't really have to worry as much about this going off, because you can also just put other 100% hit kit skills into your kit, into your party, and kind of account for that weakness. Next up, we have the Black Robed Witch sub skills, and these are actually pretty interesting. First up is Darkra, and this is nice because it is a quick cast AoE, so you can quickly ping people off. And then Dark 2 is also very interesting because it's a quick cast with a higher potency, and it's a 2-hit attack. This is great for chaining with other Dark units, so I definitely think that this can't be underrated. It's also good for stripping barriers, although she already has barrier stripper, so that's not really as big a deal. Then she gets Confused and Berserk. I love that she gets Berserk, but I also think that, you know, she's not going to cast these on auto. It's going to be a live PvP or live PvE, and if you're using this in PvP, then I mean, you probably just should be casting your damage skills anyway. So then we have Spellblade. This is a great sub just purely for one thing: resist magic, but she's actually going to be able to deal a lot of damage with these skills. So Bioblade, this is actually quite a strong skill. It gives her a different attack type slash, and then it also has a chance to inflict poison. And then resist magic, 38% magic resist, and she already has 32 with that passive. That means that she's getting up to 50 magic resist, and we haven't even put an Esper or any sort of equipment on her yet. That's pretty significant, and she can share that with her allies. But there is a world where you just have this on, and this is all she's using, because she's not getting close enough to actually use Bioblade. But if you do want her, if you have like, you know, potentially you're going against teams that are entirely magic, then you could use Taunting Spell, because she could actually magic tank based on the fact that her magic resist can get so high. As soon as you mix physical units into those teams, though, you don't want her to be using Taunting Spell. And then finally, Dark Godblade. This is a pretty high potency with Light Killer, and it's also going to just be slash attack. So that's pretty significant if somebody else has really high magic resist, really high spirit, whatever it is, and Helena happens to be close enough, maybe somebody approached her, she could actually just, you know, really rain down on somebody with this skill and do some damage. Next up is Arithmetician, and this is an interesting kit. We don't get the big Dark Ga spell, so we don't get the strongest spell, but we do get some good stuff, including Height-Based Cure, which is going to be a nice little heal that you may or may not turn off. I don't know what her AI will be like. I'm hoping that if you put this sub on, then maybe she'll act more like a healer, so then you can plan around it. But it remains to be seen how they adjust the AI for that. I mean, I know you can go look up some stuff on YouTube and see if she uses it in JP, and that's always good to do your own research before you pull. So we also get level 4 or level 3 Dark Ra. Now this is not a very strong skill, but it does have a very wide range, and the potency, like even with the 30% modifier going up with the multiple, that's still not very high, but it's instant cast, and it's a wide range. So you can use this in PvE to farm all you want, and you can even use this in PvP just to hit a lot of people, to finish people off. There's huge range on these skills, so Height-Based Dark has a super nice height difference, so you can hit this on people that are, you know, pretty far away, and if they are really far above you, then yeah, you're gonna do even more damage. So definitely some capabilities here that I like. And then Height Disable. This is a really fun skill in PvE and live PvP. but you won't see it in auto. And CT average, something that I have not played around with much at all, but could be fun. And then finally, this is an AoE heal. So personally on calculators, I often like to turn off height-based cure and then just leave on height 3 or height 2 Cura, depending on what you're doing here. And this is going to just give you like a pretty good heal, especially if they're on that height 2 or that multiple of height 2 or the multiple of height 3. You can do that depending on the map. It's actually a pretty significant heal, and that's actually very nice to have in your kit. So we already talked about how Helena has innate magic resist penetration. She's able to break unit spirit so she can deal more magic damage. Well, she also has dark resist imperil by 38% on her LB, and she starts with so much AP that she can definitely use this. This has a huge range. It has a nice 200% potency. This skill is very powerful. And again, I think that people will want to build dark resist as a way of dealing with dark parties, and this is just going to shut that down, combined with all of her other ways to punch damage through the things that people use to mitigate magic damage. So definitely very psyched about this, and then she just keeps getting better. Next up, we'll do some quick comparisons to other units, and I've chosen Luelle and then the upcoming Moore for the comparisons, and I think that these are our main magic attackers right now, and Helena really stacks up compared to them. She's got great HP like Luelle, who's supposed to be a little bit more defensive. She has a super high starting AP value. You can see that Luelle is the traditional mage that gets a big chunk of their AP, and that Moore is the 50% red mage type unit, and that Helena with 150 is just so much higher than the other two. She also has a comparable magic stat to both of them, but she gets a 60% buff on her passive. It's just insane how much magic she's going to get, plus all of the ways that she can break her spirit, the imperils, whatever. And then she has the 63 agility with agility buffs on her TMR and probably her card. It's really insane what they're giving Helena, and I just think, I mean, let's look at the pros and cons next. So we can see here the pros. It's one of the biggest I've ever done. Great TMR, huge magic stat. The fact that she has magic and slash resist, which are the two most common resists to need. Then the big starting AP value, the ability she has to get damage in even through magic tanks. Things like the non-elemental attacks are pretty neat to have. And then the barrier break and 100% hit. She really doesn't have that many holes in her kits, and she even has access to healing and some instant cast AoEs with a calculator sub, or sorry, the arithmetician sub. Then the cons, really, there's not a lot here. So double cost shards, yeah, that's definitely a con. However, you can slow build her, you can, get her eventually and work on her. And when we took a look at that chart at the beginning, her 99 stats weren't even that bad. Like honestly, her 99 stats would be fine to use for PvE, and then even if you were a new player, like she would be serviceable in PvP as well. Obviously getting to EX jobs is going to bring the most power out of her, but she's just a really stacked unit and has a lot going for her. So the other con is the casting times, and I know that she can reduce her casting times. She only has the one TP skill, and unless you put her on the Spellblade sub and use resist magic, she's actually just going to be using that TP skill on her kit to reduce your casting time, and then whatever TMR skill that you put on her. So she's not going to actually generate that much AP, which doesn't matter because she has the AP counter and she has such a high starting AP. So really, when you look at it, she's definitely going to be using that casting time buff, and that means that she's probably not going to have too much of a problem with casting time. But if you're able to dispel it, or if she's not able to use it, that is one area of her kit that you could probably jump on and take advantage of. So should you pull for Helena? Yeah, I think that you should. She's really good, and really the only reason to not pull for her is if you're broke. If you have no Visior, or if you just really want another unit that's coming up, then yeah, you might save instead of spending on a double cost. But I just think that she's so good that she could improve any account. So for example, I said to myself, I'm not going to pull any more 100 costs. I'm done with that. That's kind of changing now that we know we're going to get a ton of 100 costs in the future, although they're going to be reduced Visior cost. But with Helena, I think what I'm going to do now is I'll be pulling on her step up banner, and it's a win-win for me. I'm either going to get her and I'm going to slow build her, not buying any shards at all. I'm going to go barracks, hard quests, you name it, just get those shards slowly, Mog Shop, and do that over time. But then if I don't pull her, I'm going to get some blossoms, and I need those so I can awaken some new units into EX jobs. So that's my plan. Let me know what your plan is, and let me know if the video was helpful for you, and then otherwise guys. We're going to talk in the comments. I'll see you all on my Discord, and we'll see you all in the next video. Oh, and one more thing. Let's listen to Elda. At the end of the day, you got to make your own decision. And this is coming from the husband. Sorry, spoilers. The late husband of Helena. Make your own assessment. Make your own decision. Good luck to you all.